Hey guys, I'm Chris,
And Mike.
and welcome back to this week's No Limits, the Thriller Podcast. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. I don't know how well I'm going to sleep, though, after talking about this book, but we'll find out. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back on the No Limits Thriller Podcast. We've been gone for a little bit, haven't we?
Well, yes, except for the Knights Templar last week's
Oh,
episode.
right.
Before that, though, we were on a Scot Harvath kick for a couple of months.
Yeah. But now we're back, fully
We're
focused, one feed, going forward. This is us, and boom, back-to-back books. Loved the recommendation for you for Steve Barry. And you've been singing this since, when did this book come out? 2020? 2021?
Probably around there, yeah. I mean, there's 4 now in the series. I didn't read the newest one, so we're going back to Dark Intercept by Andrews and Wilson in order to move forward onto the new release, the 2025 release, Dark Rising. Chris, do you think you want to read the next 2 or 3 now after this?
Hands down, I have to read the next 2. I can't just jump to...
Yeah.
Especially like the ending. Oh my God. We got to talk about the ending. This book leaves you... I haven't felt like this since, I guess, Andrews and Wilson, the other series with
Sons of Valor.
Sons of Valor. They do like that kind of cliffhanger-y. It is a cliffhanger, but it's like a different kind of cliffhanger. It's not like the Scot Harvath hit cliffhanger where like, boom, someone gets shot, or we've had that happen multiple times with Riley or with Tracy, or like the scene at the end of Spy Master. I'm spoiling all these books, but there's like different kinds of spoilers, and you get these like think of a Marvel end credit scene, right?
Yes, it feels like that.
It wets your whistle just enough to like, ooh, I can't wait till next summer, man.
Yeah, totally. And these ones that these guys pull off is always relational. It involves some bombshell information about the relationships between characters that they did so much for you to buy into. And so let me tell you, Chris, Detective Perez comes back, and she comes back big. She has a role to play in the Jedediah Johnson story. So if you like that ending, there's plenty more to come in the Dark series.
I mean, how could she not? She kind of was minor character in this, like came on early, came on a little late, but then boom, setting her up to be quintessential, like the villain going forward, through the entirety of the series. I would, if I had to guess, I would imagine it could go one of 2 ways. Either he finds out that she's working for Victor in the next one, or like the entire book you don't know. So that's going to be super interesting to find out. I don't know. Like, are we still on the? Like, don't tell me. No,
I'm not saying anything.
How long is Victor? I'm intrigued. Like, is Victor still in play? Like going forward, is there like an even bigger? Or are we talking about like James Bond Spectre type stuff?
Because he's the big bad. He's the big bad, and he's an incredible big bad. And when you add the spiritual component, which is something we're definitely going to have to talk about, but you add that, and now you have a villain who basically represents evil incarnate. Like evil, capital E, devil, that is just wild to put into a thriller. And they do it so flawlessly, and they do it so naturally. And so we'll get to the spiritual stuff, but you're absolutely right. Victor has a role to play. I'm not going to say much more, but yeah, he's a big bad. And you know how we like when the big bad is around for a 2-3 book arc, and that only elevates them?
Yeah, but I'm already starting to think, like, is this... Have you watched, what's that show on Netflix?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. You know how like you that I won't spoil it,
well, you say what you're gonna say, but yeah, I know I need to see it.
Where it's like, you're with a villain for the entire series, or even like maybe let's say 2 seasons, and then you realize that there's someone else actually. There's always a or Star Wars, right? You have.
I love those.
You like
reveals.
Snook, and then it's actually Palpatine, and then it's actually Palpatine reincarnated, like all this crazy stuff.
Somehow Palpatine survived. I love that meme.
Let's not litigate that one on this podcast. That would take over everything. But
No, but even Vader, like Luke, I am your
Yeah.
father. It's kind of like the reverse of that. We knew he was bad, but now we're learning he's intimately connected. Well, we've already seen characters intimately connected, and then it's revealed that somebody's bad. You know, I kind of like both of those devices.
So I guess my first question for you is, was she controlling the cop, the cop who died, or were they just all of them were in cahoots with Victor?
And you could literally get into a theological debate over this of, right, you're basically asking, what's the nature of evil? Is it one bad force corrupting otherwise good parts of creation, like that crooked cop, or even Kenny, right? In the flashback scene to when they were kids, when they were teenagers, the guy hosting the party, they thought they were friends, is all of a sudden doing this to Rachel with that demonic looking in his eyes. I think they're pretty much establishing evil is the absence of good, right? A very Christian, very Catholic idea. Evil is the absence of good, but through the fall, man and individual men can allow that evil to operate more openly through them, through their devices and their choices, and by turning away. And so I kind of like how there's no answer to that question, but we're getting the sense that they do come from, obviously, the authors are steeped in a Christian background. And so what I think it is that these spirits are entering into people, like they're real humans, but they're using them, they're manipulating them. So I don't know if like Detective Perez is pulling strings. I think it's Victor, really. I think the be all end all is with Victor. So I think it's part of his master plan. All these spirits are kind of like sent out and sent forth to go find corrupted humans and corruptible bodies that they enter and then do all these things. So I think they're all pawns on Victor's chessboard. That's how I would read it. But yeah, these evil spirits are going out and finding the wickedness that exists in the world and exploiting it, you know, turning it to their advantage.
Yeah, no, it's super intriguing, and you know, it's almost like you said, these corruptible bodies. The crooked cop who was Perez's, I don't know if his partner or whatever, they work together, right? He was so wicked that when when he gets healed, like there's nothing left for him. He just dies, right?
It's wild,
because
yeah.
like he was completely absorbed by this dark being.
But the opposite with the friend who was attacking Rachel. Like the demon leaves him and he's there and he's just a weeping sob. And Rachel's even like, did you kill him, Jed? And David's freaked out thinking they murdered him. It's like, you can't murder the innocent guy because he was possessed by the spirit.
Yeah, no, I know. It's very psychological. It gets you thinking about like, you know, what is the line between good and evil. I guess we should start to talk about, you know, the whole faith-based idea of this book. You know, we can kind of bring up the scores and, you know, begin to talk about like what people have said about it. I know that friend of the pod, Daryl, loves these books, but I will say, you know, you have to be. I don't think this book is for everyone, but I think if you like thriller novels and if you're comfortable reading, you know, a faith-based book, then I would recommend this to anybody. Like, I don't know, it's freaking awesome, and
Sure.
also like just the supernatural too. Like, you know, not only combining like this idea of God and the Holy Spirit and you know, these warriors for God, but also this, you know, you could have this could be any story. This could be, you know, aliens. You know, they just happen to put their Christian spin on it, and you know, it's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you were okay with it because I was recommending this series so highly, and I kind of had a sense it would be up our alley, but I did want to unpack reading a faith-based thriller, yet one that still captures, I would say, all the elements of a traditional military thriller. Like, just look at your protagonist, Jed, and even one of my favorite characters in the series, Ben Morvant. Like, they're coming at this from the traditional military op perspective. And even the shepherds as a whole, as we unpack throughout the book who they are, this idea of teams and watchers and keepers. This is really, as much as it's supernatural and faith-based and spirits and demons, it's actually grounded in real operations. And these guys know best, you know, Brian and Jeff. They both served. One was a surgeon, served with SEAL teams, you know, in the field. Another one was on submarines. They have so many different roles, military-based Navy roles. You can't help but notice they're blending the faith and the military operations so seamlessly, you almost forget that this is a faith-based or Christian book. It kind of melts away because the operations are so seamless that there's intel people, there's the guy in your ear, they're targeting, and they have these teams where Overwatch is giving you live updates and they're directing the tactics. Yet the guys on the ground, the warriors, still have to make the decisions based on reading the field. You almost forget, even if you don't want to read any religion in your books, you think someone recommends this book, you think they're crazy. No way, that's not for me. I'll never read it. I think you have to give it a chance. And another thing they do is they keep it pretty non-denominational, interfaith. It's kind of like the Shepherds. We learn they're an international interfaith group. You don't really hear much about Jesus Christ, the resurrection, specific things in the Bible to one sect of Christianity. They're kind of just referring to this overarching deity who is love, who spreads love, who can work through all creation. You can channel that love through your choice, your freedom, your willpower. So I think it's really a book about freedom and human nature and willpower. And if you want to strip it of all of the religious stuff, I think you kind of can, which is weird to say, where it would have been different if they led into each of the characters has a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Instead, they just say God, and I think that kind of opens it up. It kind of widens the borders a little bit to be more inviting. And I think the Shepherds being this interfaith group, it would be really cool if we go out around the world. Hint, hint. I think there's a lot of opportunities because they kept it so broad.
Yeah. And, if you think about other stories that are like this, I think of, Harry Potter. I think of Star Wars, this bringing in whether it's this organization grounded on something, whether that be, wizards, whether that be Jedi, whatever organization, you want to bring the person into, then you have this person on the outside and they begin to get incorporated. It's been done time and time again, journey. The hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, right? So yeah, I think they executed perfectly. And the action, they do the action in this so good. It's like a Dempsey. It's like a Sons of Valor, It starts with right from the rip with, that scene. Well, first of all, we're over in Iraq, with these quote unquote, or over in the Middle East. It's kind of like a flashback, type thing, sort of setting the stage, and then we immediately cut to the Barnes and Noble scene, and I'm just I was confused, and they're purposely not giving you're just getting a little bits and nibbles at this story. You're kind of going through it how Jedediah is going through it, right? You don't know, you kind of know, but you don't know until it gets told to you, until the very end, right? When they meet at the church with the priest, he finds out that I would love to see that picture. I don't know if it's on the cover or not, but of the dove, but with the eagle's wings.
The one at the cathedral.
That would have been a cool a cover. But
Nashville is portrayed so well. That's just one of the many churches and sites around the city.
Yeah, we get Nashville on the cover. Oh.
Yeah, I'm not from Nashville, never been. Right. But can you imagine if you're from Nashville, the city intimately well, this book is just as good as, let's say, a Brad Thor book, taking you to Switzerland or Norway or wherever. He's able to do that here with Nashville, which is so cool.
I know we rarely go to these southern places. I guess, we've gone to Texas. I think in, what was it? Storm Rising with,
Chris Howdy. Yep.
With Chris Howdy.
But it's always DC or New York. You might get a Chicago or a Boston here and there.
I think we've gone to LA once.
Yeah.
But
the thrillers should go to
these smaller,
I agree.
Nashville's not small, but even just, denoting, freaking Pigeon Forge. I've been down there in Gatlinburg, and that's a crazy place. And, going through these hills and getting the description of the American South. It's very interesting. I think Jack Reacher Lee Child does it very good because, you know, his books kind of travel all throughout the entire United States. And he does a really good job of really immersing you in each city you're in. But yeah, like most of our thrillers that we've been reading are focused, it's either Europe, Middle East, or we're hanging out in DC. You know, rarely have we gone to outside the Washington DMV area.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I think that's another thing that makes it unique is just the setting. So it's really unique in the supernatural stuff. It's also unique in the setting. There's just a lot of barriers these guys are breaking while still operating within the bounds of what people want to read as a thriller, like the plotting, the pacing, and you said the action sequences, exactly what anybody could want in a thriller. That scene when Father Macklin and who we learn is Corbin, the girl who has hideout in the stall, are meeting, and they're supposed to meet up with Rachel and Sarah Beth and family. And they're kind of like quizzing each other on like biblical things. Yet you're right, we don't know it. And Jed has to go through, it's almost like a police procedural. He's playing investigator in the beginning because he has no info like we have no info. And so I think the first like third of this book, it's a little slow on action after that opening. But I think that's a good thing. It gives us time to meet Rachel, David, learn who Sarah Beth is, and it lets another storyline cook, which is Sarah Beth and fake grandma.
Right.
Might be my favorite parts of the book when she's in captivity and fake grandma is coming in, and we're in Sarah Beth, a 12-year-old girl's head who has these special gifts. We realize she can read thoughts, particularly with her mother, you know, since they have such a close relationship. Even trying to like transmit where she is. She's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to say every little detail I realize. There's a tower out the window. The sun rises this way. The fields are described this way. And she's almost, I mean, I don't know if you've looked into this remote viewing stuff.
Oh, no, she's almost like telling me about this. Yeah.
Holy cow. She's like reverse remote viewing where she's like projecting where she is, knowing that she has this connection with her mom. Oh my God. And then when fake grandma is coming in and being so creepy, and ultimately when she screams, birds, that part of the book, that whole escape from the house storyline might be my favorite, most haunting thing. And since I read this book, what, four years ago now, I think, and then coming back to it, that was what I was looking forward to the most. I wanted that moment so badly. And even years later on my second or third reread, it hit just as hard.
Yeah, and I think that can allow us to talk about the narrator here. We obviously both did the audiobook. I think this McLeod
Andrews. Yeah.
McLeod Andrews. One of these related to Brad Andrews.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Multiple Audie awards I looked up, including one for Dark Fall. Was that last year's?
I forget exactly.
But anyways, for me, the creepiest scenes were when he transitions to Victor's voice.
Yeah, he's so good at it.
We get a confrontation of Victor and Jedediah in that house when he tries to control him, tries to make him kill himself when he's in his. And then that also reminded me of Stranger Things, because in that it's also about like telepathy and being mind controlled by these netherworld regions and talking to each other. Oh, it's so intense, and like that was creepy. That was so creepy.
When he makes him raise that gun to his chin, when he's in the woods outside the house staring at the silhouette in the window, holy moly, that is one of the most haunting scenes I've ever read. Because it's like, it's all personal, right? We know what Jed's going through with the grief that he carries, with never becoming a pastor, with falling away from religion, with becoming this military man, all of his faults. And he's like, I don't want to do this. Like, it's easy for someone to just go, oh, he's a washed up SEAL. He's seen some stuff. He blew his brains out in the middle of the woods, But no, like, there's depth to this character, and it's because evil is trying to creep its way into his head and control him. And so, that scene, I think, is phenomenal. And that's the sequence where they escape and run into Ben Morvan. at the end of the woods when they're getting out. Dude, like you said, to do the narration for Victor, the fake grandma, the little girl, Sarah Beth, but then you have to differentiate Sarah Beth from Corbin, because those are also those are very well done when her and Corbin are meeting and
like talking to each other.
Yeah, they're experimenting with their powers, dude. Whether it's the remote viewing or, like you're saying, something from Stranger Things, just this idea of consciousness has been on my mind so much. Maybe because Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan, all these other podcasts I listen to have really had some people on. But dude, there is crazy stuff out there, and some of it is coming from really seemingly reliable people. If it's all a disinformation or misinformation campaign, they kind of got me. I really want to know more about just what is consciousness, what is beyond. And so have you also heard of the telepathy tapes? This podcast? There's this lady who does a podcast, the telepathy tapes. I haven't listened to it. It got criticized a lot for various things. Apparently there's a movie coming out. But she basically spoke to so many different people in the nonverbal autistic kind of category. And there were so many parents who had similar stories of what their children were able to do, or these almost miraculous things their children would do who are nonverbal and basically non-communicative. And something that came out is that first, they predict a lot of things, and they're able to tell their parents things that are true or come true, but there's no way the family would have or should have ever known that. But another one, when Sarah Beth and Corbin are going into this kind of spirit world and this connection that they have in this otherly place, they call it the Hill. The telepathy tapes uncovered all of these children. They have this place they call the Hill, and regardless of space and distance and time, they're all apparently able to commune and kind of hang out. And apparently on this podcast, she interviewed some teacher who said one of the best parts of a couple of the kids' days is when they're just quiet and they do quiet meditation time. And she's like, usually these are kids who just can't stop, whether it's noise, body motions, tics, tremors, and stimming and things. And she goes, we do this kind of meditation thing and they all just stop and they're so quiet. And they're communicating with each other in the Hill. They go to this place called the Hill. They see all their friends and other people they know, and they can like commune with them. And apparently even on like forums like Reddit and things, there's a bunch of people talking about how, hey, I saw you at the Hill last night. And like they actually know things about each other's lives, even though they're nonverbal kids living across the world. And I'm just like, consciousness might be crazier than we think.
Well, it's just proof that this is the Matrix, and we're all plugged in, and we're just being uploaded, and we can cracks in the Matrix. Right?
I just don't know. I'm just not closing my mind to any possibility of something like this.
This is no limits the conspiracy theorist corner.
Back to the conspiracy corner, but that's the problem. How many people does it take to have these experiences that you just keep writing them off before, hey, maybe there's some kernel of truth under this?
True.
That people are tapping into.
Very true.
Dude, the remote viewing stuff is wild. Look up this guy, Joe McMoneagle. It's just unbelievable.
Joe McMoneagle. All right, write that down.
The story, listen to the Sean Ryan podcast with Joe McMoneagle. Anyway.
All right, back to the story. Let's skip out the scorecard.
Sure.
Let's do it. Dude, acting suspense. I'm gonna go 10. Like I can't go anything lower than a 10, dude.
Give me the 10.
Because not only does it get all the action really well, this is super suspenseful. I think just like having that spirit, supernatural, this, otherworldly beings, having, these various cliffhangers throughout the story, it just propels you. And you said that I would agree. The first third of this novel is a little bit slow. I had to pick some nits, but then you needed that. And at the beginning, I'm skeptical, right? I'm like, all right, why does he have to be a Navy SEAL? What is he doing? Like being this, private eye, his friend, like But I get it. In the end, it has to be because he has to become a shepherd, and so in order for him to become a shepherd, he has to have that background.
I think Ben Morvant puts it all together.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going 10.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we didn't even talk about the real second half action, which is an op. You know, when they think the bombs are planted in the church during that kind of interfaith gathering concert thing, but really it's a trap to blow them up in the parking lot and get the shepherds. That's exciting. And then they got to peel out, and Jed's got to rush to the house because that whole final action sequence where they're trying to take Sarah Beth again at the house, it's almost nonstop. Once you hit the scene in the woods where they're getting her out of the captivity.
Oh yeah, it's
nonstop.
Continually goes. Yeah,
it's nonstop after that. And the work was done to get you bought into the characters, and I think then it kind of refreshes when Ben Morvant shows up, and it's almost like nothing, Jon Snow. Like nothing, Jedediah, about what's going on here. Like everything we thought we knew with him starting to put the pieces together. This priest was killed in the car crash. The girl was taken. We're getting some weird visions, and I'm getting these weird intuitive feelings. Even when he's investigating that lady, like Mary, she was like the landlord at Father Macklin's place. And he like knows her name. It just pops into his head. He's like, oh, Mary, I was looking for you. So many of these things are happening, yet he has no idea why. He's fighting it. He still hasn't unpacked what happened decades earlier, with Rachel and David, the campfire scene. And it all comes to a head, I think, when Ben Morvant is like, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you who we are, what the shepherds are. And I love that. So, yeah, I think the action, the suspense is a 10. And because of everything I just said, the plot, it's laid out really well. I think it flows. I think the timing is great. Once you get over that hump in the beginning, it's just you can't put it down for the last 2/3 of this book. So I think on plot, I go a 9.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think there's maybe a couple things we would ding it that could elevate it to that 10. I was a little confused at again, I guess in the beginning, like my whole confusion was
who is he? Why is he here?
Right. Like, but I guess that was the whole purpose of it. So maybe I'm just, getting bogged down by that. But I think, I don't know, they do a great job laying everything out, getting you hooked, and then once we hit the ground running, it's great. And, like I said, this is also like a James Bond novel. Like it's like a Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan type novel. It just feels all these genres blended together. It's great.
Yeah. It's really impressive stuff. I think to pull that off is unreal. So because of buy-in on all that, you know what? I'm going to go 5, which is crazy because you think this is the most unrealistic book. You tell somebody the plot of this book, it's like, don't do that. That's not up my alley. I'll never understand all that. But once you read it, you're bought into the relationships. I love how things are being revealed. I'm giving 5 on buy-in for the revealing of information. We don't know everything about the car crash, Father Macklin and Corbin in the bathroom stall. We don't know everything about Sarah Beth's powers and her connection with her mother and the voices she's hearing. We don't know everything about Jed's backstory. That had to be unveiled almost halfway through the book, I think. The rape scene with Rachel and what they went through. We got hints at it when he was meeting David. And he's like, I'm not going to say Rachel's name and all this. But that wasn't revealed to us till later. And then revealed about who the shepherds are. We don't even know what the shepherds are until 50, 60% into this book. Who the watchers are. Corbin and Sarah Beth meeting, and finally Corbin teaching her what all these supernatural powers are. That's not revealed until late in the book, and how to harness them. I love how everything is plotted out just to, like you said, wet your whistle, keep you wanting. And every time one of those things is revealed, it's like, let's go. I want to see that in action. I want to see how they use that on an op. And then that even pays off. So I think it's a 5 on buy-in.
All right. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I was confused to why David and they had such a. Did they have a strained relationship because after that rape scene, like he just checked out and he was he was done with it. Like what? I was just confused as to what led them to like have a falling out. Yeah, Jed, Rachel, and David.
I mean, I think it was teenage trauma
and him not wanting to admit like, you know, what he saw that night. And
yeah,
and then ultimately maybe like turning towards, all right, I'm going to go into the military. He turns down his faith.
Yeah.
Once wanted to become a pastor, didn't. And then now he looks back and says,
yes,
oh, not only did you steal my high school sweetheart, but you also became a pastor, something that I wanted to do.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Okay.
No, completely.
I guess talking it out, like I get that now.
All of that comes together too with Rachel's line of, it wasn't just that you left, it's you took your light with you. Like she was almost, even though she was the one who was attacked, she was willing to come face to face with it. She was willing to confront the evil of that night. But Jed was just going to reject it. He was going to say, I'm not crazy. This couldn't happen. This was something wild. We're never going to talk about this again. He cut himself off, where she, I think, is in tune with that world. And she realized someone like Jed could overcome that darkness, could help them through that evil. Yet he ghosted them. He left them. They were the three amigos. They were the best. They were best friends. They were as tight as can be. They were dating. And he left. He checked out because he didn't want to confront that evil. He didn't want to own it. He didn't want to recognize it. And I think that line that she says is that, I'm not just mad that you left. I'm mad that you took your light with you. Light that we all shared, we all deserved, and we all need to fight off these demons. I think that line meant a lot for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
It kind of made me think of like when I'm frustrated at school or work and the kids, like, you know, this and that. It's just gonna be like, yeah, but they all have a light. You know, it's like same with everybody. Like we all have a light, and don't cut yourself off from the light that others can show. Even some are dimmer, some are brighter, some fluctuate, some go in and out. It's like we all have that light. And I think Rachel's line to say you took your light away from us is really, really hits.
Yeah. All right. I'm bought in.
Maybe I'm not. I've read the book a few times.
I'm not as bought in as you, so I'm gonna go for.
Fair. That's fair. I think if you read it again, I wonder.
That might be my only points taken away for the rest of this score. It's kind of amazing. Bad guys.
What else do you dock? They're
Victor,
perfect. Yeah.
5. The creepy grandma, 5. All the crazy ass operators that are being controlled by Victor, and then at the very end, you throw in this Perez twist that she's on the inside. Oh my God! 5.
Reading it the second time, the hints are there the entire time. You know, from the minute the hints are there the entire time
that she's bad.
Yep, it's wild. Yet you never see it. You never see it. Even in the epilogue, when she's picking up the phone, she's getting released from the hospital. They like give her a bag of belongings, and she's like, I don't care about all that crap. I just want these shoes. And like she was hyper focused on like, I just want these designer brand shoes. It's like she's representing like materialism, you know? And it's just like little things like that are just insanely telling of her worldview and why she's on the dark side. And I'm just like, they're so subtle with it that when they hit you over the head, it's almost like you knew it was coming, even though it's so shocking. It's just perfectly done.
Yeah, I guess the thing that sort of freaked my, you know, put up my antennas the most was when her partner dies, or I keep calling her partner, but it's not the cop who was working in the same division as her dies.
Who fought him in the field or the parking lot? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, the one who arrested him. The one who arrested him.
Right. She has no sympathy for that.
No sympathy.
She's just
no.
Like it's very strange.
Jed even says like, isn't he your partner?
Yeah, exactly.
And she has no qualms about it. Yeah.
She comes with like some like quick response to like, oh, I've seen a lot. You know,
I've seen a lot. It's just trauma. It's part of the job. Yeah. And he's like, I've seen guys die too, but like that's not. I don't just brush it off, ignore it. You know, you reckon with it eventually. Little hints are there, man.
Little hints are there. Yeah, for sure. And then good guys like Jedediah, awesome main character. And then we bring in the secondary characters. Love all the shepherds. Love the Watchers. Love Corbin.
Yeah.
You know, and now David's going to have to be his, what is it called?
His keeper.
His keeper. Yeah.
So and I love how all those dynamics of their history and their relationship have to come to a head Sarah Beth is going to be one of the Watchers. David is going to be his mentor, his spiritual director. So, and all of that has to click. And here's the thing with Jed is he pushed off so much from his life and ignored it and wanted to just let it be in the past. But the one thing he knows is an operation, you have to be all in. You can't have things bothering you. You can't have little greedy or petulant little annoyances, crop up between people. If that's the guy giving you intel on a mission, you got to trust it. If that's the little 12-year-old girl who's telling you she sees somebody around the corner who's suspicious, you got to trust them. And I think Ben explaining this to him with his operations background makes him say he gives up, any reservations he had and says, I'm all in. And I do like that moment when it's a long chapter where he's kind of mulling over if he's going to say yes to the shepherds. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like, the fiat. It's almost like I'm the handmaid of the Lord kind of thing. And he has to kind of accept that. And it's really cool to watch him go through that.
Yeah.
So good guys who's your favorite of all those? Let's take Jed out of the equation. Who's your favorite?
That's tough. I don't know. For some reason, I really liked, what was the name of the pastor who comes in? She's
Pastor D.
Pastor D. I really like Pastor D.
She's great. She's great.
I imagine she's going to be, like a mainstay through the series.
I think she oversees the keepers.
Oh, but I'm blanking on the leader of the shepherds. What's his name again?
Ben Morvant.
Yeah, Ben. I love Ben.
I love Ben so much.
Like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
Sirius Black. Oh,
you're so right.
All your favorite leaders in these stories.
He's so Obi-Wan. You're so right.
Yeah, he's Obi-Wan.
That's a great pull. That's a really good pull. Yeah, I resonate with him. I love it so much. If I got to give another one, though, I say Corbin. I think Corbin's just a well-developed character, wise beyond her years, still being just a teenager, But in the St. George's Academy, the school and the training, it's like they're
I wanted to say, this also reminds me of X-Men. Very much so like X-Men.
Professor X.
Ben is like Ben. Professor X.
Yeah.
Bringing. I imagine that Wolverine is Jedediah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He has this school of misfit kids. That have this special ability.
100%. Oh, wait till we get more St. George's. Yeah. Oh, dude. There's some great scenes coming up. Yeah. I forget if it's second or third book, but there's some fun stuff coming.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say it ends up channeling some Harry Potter vibes with the student body at St. George's. Yeah. It's good stuff, dude. It's good stuff.
Nice.
Another good thing about this book, I think this is our podcast episode with the least amount of swear words.
It feels like we can't, I can't curse, because of what we read.
I think it just happened subconsciously, but I think it's because of how positive this book is, and you got to be a good Christian while you're on the pod now.
Yeah, very true. Very true. What do you think of the setting?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's really great. I think I would go 5 if I knew Nashville, if I was from Nashville, whether I've seen some of these churches or... He goes on a long walk. I think he has a few hours to kill at one point. He goes to a pub and goes for a walk. And then there's that parking lot scene, I think, is where he has that battle with the first demon.
And he passes by. There's a complete replica of the Parthenon in Nashville for some reason.
And he goes by it. Yeah. I think if I knew those sites, I can go a little higher. The woods where Sarah Beth is being held. I think they're all really, really good, but I'm going to go 4.
Okay, I think I want to go a little higher, 4.5. And one of the main reasons is not that I've been to Nashville or I have been to Tennessee, but we didn't go to Nashville. My sister lived in Knoxville, but and I felt like the audiobook narrator did this well of when they're describing the places, whether it's in the woods or the house or when you're in Victor's mind, they did a good job of like just making me feel like I was there, like I was in this dark place. Like just early on describing when she's locked up with the grandma. It some of the descriptions of where she is, and the people and everything, just it gives you that like sort of darkness, and and then moving to the light when we're in like Nashville, like it's
Yeah.
outside bright, like, he's outside a lot. I don't know, I really like that, and I felt that not often do I like feel that or remember that in some of our novels. So I'm gonna go
Sure.
4.5. You're gonna go 4. So
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The details were phenomenal. The squeaky floorboard outside the door.
yes.
She's thinking about that if she has to escape, and then Jed steps on it. Like all these little details. Yeah. The silhouette in the window, Victor. Ooh, you're really transported there for sure. Well, I guess it's time for the covers.
So I'm gonna give points to I looked it up because I wanted to see the Nashville skyline, and
That is it.
That is it. So that's the AT&T building. It was originally Bell South, the AT&T headquarters. We have a couple other buildings, so obviously, heavily getting the Nashville vibes.
Exactly.
For some reason, I don't get the sense that that's Jedediah, this dark running man figure. He looks a little too skinny. I mean, Jedediah is very tall, like 6'4", right? But I get the sense that he's huge,
Yeah.
And this to me just looks more like a Mitch Rapp style type operator, like
It does.
or like a Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible type operator. I like the confetti, kind of gives this idea of, or whether it's debris, we have those bombs that go off in the courtyard. Kind of drawn to that scene. It's good. It's not great.
I kind of agree. The only thing I'm going to say is that the silhouette does keep up as a theme. It's never the running man silhouette. It's never been my favorite play. Mitch Rapp did a lot. We made our jokes about that back in the day. Brad Thor never really had that, which was kind of nice. Yeah, I don't. It doesn't remind me of Jed. I do think the colors are evocative of something related to this eerie spirit world. The blues, the greens, the darks.
I see that.
Points for Nashville, of course.
But when it looks like he's wearing a trench coat. When is he ever wearing a trench coat?
A trench coat. When does he ever have his weapon drawn? When does he ever
like weapon
running?
Drawn a lot, like.
Well, sure, but I mean, walking through the city.
Right.
It's like when they're going to the church op, or he's going into the house. I do like the lines through the text. I think that gives it a little bit of that sense of these signals. Yeah, I don't know. The lines through the text just remind me something about some signals being sent or intercepted or murky.
I like,
but yeah,
I like the birds. Like the birds going. It's like the sense of this some force that's there that like disturb the birds.
The birds are even those lights, the orbs of light. I think do that too. So all that stuff I think is helping.
It helps.
Dude, do you want to talk about a bad silhouette? Just look at Dark Rising, the new book. Granted, I haven't read it, so maybe if you judge the book by the cover, it's different, but
Oh, we have a female.
There's a woman. Yeah, so standing man, standing lady.
Oh, we get more definition of their face. It's almost like a graphic novel.
That's what I'm saying. But then again, it also just looks like, buymeacover.com kind of characters. Granted, I don't know the story, so it could be a really important scene.
Yeah. Story yet.
And then look at Dark Fall and Dark Angel. It's funny that they also do the silhouette, but totally different. It's almost like books 1 and 4, their covers echo and reflect each other. And then books 2 and 3, their covers reflect each other. So
Darkfall looks more like an operator, like a Sons of Valor style.
Exactly. And Dark Angel, isn't that really cool having St. Peter's Dome back there?
Yeah, because that more so evokes the operatorness.
Yeah.
Dark
Fully
Intercept
kitted out.
makes him seem like he's this. I guess he is kind of like, because he's an ex-Navy SEAL.
Shadow figure.
He's this shadow figure. I don't know, for some reason, I'm just not. Honestly, I think if you got rid of the figure, I would be more on board with that novel. That's why I think I kind of like Cover C better. It's the same, you know, Nashville skyline, the sunset. You kind of have this like looks like a kind of a storm coming in. You have those glowing orbs. Cover B is just, you know,
a German cover. Who knows?
Typical German, you know, Rambo. We got freaking Rambo here.
Ein Shepherd series novel.
Yeah, Ein Shepherd.
I don't think we put much stock into B, the German one. I've never seen it. I don't think it's actually printed, to be honest, anywhere outside of Germany. So it's like that one probably doesn't even count. Cover C, I never even saw before researching for the pod. I don't know if that's a paperback release or an ebook, but I definitely think Cover C is the best one. I like getting rid of the silhouette.
Out of the three.
Yeah. It more of the Nashville skyline like you were describing before. You really get to see it here. And still the orbs, like you said. Maybe the birds would be cool, but definitely those orbs of light are still there. So covers are okay. I don't think I go lower than a 3, though. I think I'm right about there.
I think I'm going to go 3.5.
I could go 3.5, but keep me at the 3.
3? All right.
Not my favorite, yeah.
All right, who's your free space, dude?
Ooh, I hadn't thought about that one. We said Corbin. I said Corbin before. I might just have to stick with that. I think the scene where Corbin and Sarah Beth are exploring the spirit world. That's it.
I'm gonna go the priest from the opening scene where we like first get I guess I'm more so picking that entire scene as like my free space, you know, really getting you hooked in and like you're confused or intrigued. And then it culminates with like this crazy ass, you know, murder accident, you know, type thing where he, you know, sacrifices his life to try to, one, save Corbin, and two, potentially tries to prevent her from being kidnapped. I feel like that just begins this hook, line, and sinker of bringing you into that plot. So to me, like that scene stands out. So I'm going to go with the priest from the opening scene. I forget his name, but
Father Macklin.
Father Macklin. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And representative of St. George. I will say I forgot. My free space should have been fake grandma. Or let's say McLeod Andrews for pulling off that fake grandma. The shepherd scream, I could listen to that over and over, the shepherd scream. That's unbelievable.
Just all her entire voice and persona, he does such a good job of differentiating that from all the other female characters and giving you this creepy ass vibe. Oh, there you go. I cursed. So
I must add a few in there at some point. Nah, dude, when he does that shepherd scream, that sat with me. That one sat with me. Everything about the fake grandma scenes, really. But that scream, shepherd, I was like, what? What is that? Like, what is that? Loved it. I loved every minute of this audiobook.
True. All right, well, pretty good scores for the first book.
Pretty good scores. What'd I take off? 1, 2, 3, 4, 46? A 46. I'm happy with that.
I'm a 45.5, so we're right there. Yeah.
We have not been more than a half or 1 point off on a book in a long while. We're kind of having a mind meld on what we like.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a consequence of us talking out our scores on the pod as opposed to us pre-scoring before we come in. But who cares? It's our pod. We can do what we want. So.
I'm really interested, though, because just like Steve Berry, I wanted my recommendation to really hit with you. And I think it did. And you want to read more? You want to keep going in the series?
Oh, dude, I want to read more Steve Berry. I want to read more of this. I want to.
Good.
I hope, the second book syndrome doesn't hit them with the next one. So
I'm not going to say much.
All right.
All I'm going to say is this one's my favorite.
The next one?
No. Dark Intercept's my favorite.
Dark Intercept's your favorite. Okay.
But then again, everyone on the pod knows I'm an originalist. I like the originals. Books. I like first books. I like when I get hooked. I kind of have this nostalgia for them. So take it for what it is. I want you to have an open mind, but this one is, I think it's so good. I think great stuff happens in the next two, and I haven't even read the fourth one, so we'll see what Dark Rising has in store.
All right, so what are we going to do next? Are we going to continue on with the series, pop around? We have some new releases we need to cover. What's on the pod?
I'm honestly not sure. So I think we got to just talk offline and set our second half of 2025 schedule, because it's already June, which is crazy. So I think we got to set our second half schedule and nail that down. Maybe we could talk about that tonight.
Sounds good. We'll put something out on the socials so that way you guys know what we're going to be covering in the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
But no, we've had a bunch of books like Move, and we're not going to get Cry Havoc anymore until October now, right? So.
Yeah. There's a lot of dates moving around, so we got to look at that. We're going to cover all the new releases of all our typical thrillers we've done here. We're only going to be on the Thriller Podcast, so don't worry about not hearing from us for a while. We will be back here on this feed. Mitch Rapp, Scot Harvath, seasons 1 and 2 are done and in the books. Make sure you subscribe and listen to those. But Chris, we can't let you go till I read you my limerick.
Ooh, give it to me.
This book is not for deep sleepers. It gives you the jeepers and creepers. Overcoming grief through faith and belief. Thank God for shepherds, watchers, and keepers.
That's a good one, Mike.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
You're
saving it up. I think you wore yourself out, and then you need to come back to it. A little rest. Come back with the eater.
Now that we're on the Thriller Pod, every book from here on forward will have a limerick.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that.
Sure. Even if we need to chat GPT it at the last second.
Well, and we have the follow up to Fade. Like, we already have that book in hand. I need to physically read it, and
it in July.
So
I think that comes out June or July. I think July. So yep.
All right. More to come from the No Limits Thriller Podcast. All right. Well, we can't leave without thanking our patrons, our Deputy Director, Sherry F., our Special Operator, Jason C., our Special Agents, Ben, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Don, Peggy, Chris, and Mark. Subscribe, rate, and review to No Limits on Apple or Spotify, wherever you choose. You can find us at thrillerpod.com or on Twitter and Instagram at Thriller Podcast. And go check out our YouTube page where you can watch full videos of this podcast. And as always, just let Jedediah be Jedediah.